called American Girl. They make dolls, toys for kids, but this specifically, dolls for girls. And they have come out with a new doll. Her name is Gwen Thompson. It's the Gwen Thompson doll. And Gwen Thompson has a backstory, as so many of the dolls do now. And there's a rather mind-boggling irony here. The Gwen Thompson doll is a homeless child. I'm not making this up. Mattel has come out with a doll that is homeless. This is her backstory. This from the Financial Times. I tore it out as I was flying back from Europe. I think it's from the Saturday paper. It might be from the Friday. She's homeless. She describes in the little booklet that comes with it how her father lost his job and then left the family, forcing Gwen and her mother to sleep in their car after they were evicted. Gwen's mother in the storybook says, "I always thought homelessness happened to other people, never to me." She says, this is the story. This is the mother's story of this homeless doll, Gwen Thompson, the homeless doll. She said, "At first my daughter and I slept in our car. I'd park so we'd wake up near a wayside rest area or restaurant, somewhere we could use the sink for washing up, and then I'd go to work and pretend that life was just as it had always been." How much does the doll cost? $95. I don't know of very many homeless kids who can afford a $100 doll. You can buy a hairbrush for her for $7. You can get her hair done at the salon for $20. This is pretty amazing. And what's really interesting is that there are a number of people who are coming out and saying, this is just wrong, that Mattel is using homelessness to make money. And there are other people saying, hey, this is really a great thing because the children of wealth and privilege are discovering that there are children who are not so well off. But then there's a third group who are saying, no, it's really a terrible thing because the children of wealth and privilege are buying a $95 homeless doll, which makes it seem like homelessness ain't that bad because this doll doesn't have problems with tuberculosis or the weird guy, sleeping in the tent next to her, hassling her or harassing her or abusing her, or the problems of moving from school to school, and she's not emaciated and she's not hungry and she's not at risk of disease and she doesn't have health insurance. All those things. What do you think? Should Mattel have come out with this doll? It's really, in my mind, a symptom of a much larger issue. And here's the much larger issue. Another example. These are all symptoms. The cause is predatory capitalism. The cause is that we have surrendered democracy in the United States to capitalism. That when Ayn Rand came over to the United States in the 1950s, her father had lost his pharmacy in the Bolshevik Revolution in whatever it was, 1917, 1918, and she was educated in the 1920s, or perhaps the early 1930s, in the Soviet university system in Kiev, and she came over to the United States in the 50s, and she changed her name to Ayn Rand, and she, having been raised in a system where the economic system and the political system were one and the same. Communism was the economic system, communism was the political system. She assumed that in America, capitalism was our political system. And this is the problem of all of these libertarians and objectivists and all these other folks and the people who are informing the right wing so often and so repeatedly, is that they have this idea that our economic system, capitalism, is our political system, democracy. And the fact of the matter is that raw, naked, predatory, unrestrained, unbridled, laissez-faire capitalism is the antithesis of democracy. It's the opposite of democracy. It's the enemy of democracy. It is a cancer in democracy. Now, I'm not suggesting that somebody should not be able to use capital. Here's another thing that most people don't get. They say, hey, I've got a good job, I'm a capitalist. I'm sorry, you're not a capitalist. A capitalist is a person who makes their money with money. They use capital to make their money. A capitalist is somebody who makes their money off investments. There are very few capitalists in the United States of America. There are a lot of us who have a little bit of money invested that we hope we can live on when we get old, but that's really not capitalism. That's savings. There's probably fewer than 1 million and maybe fewer than 500,000 true capitalists in the United States. And they're making out like bandits. Angela Braley, the CEO of WellPoint, the largest health insurance company in the United States, who makes $10 million a year. Now, even arguably, she's not a capitalist. She's got a job. She's taking a big salary. But she's certainly using the capitalist system. They have announced that they are cutting this, keep in mind, the largest U.S. insurance company, they're cutting their employee insurance benefits, their employee health benefits. They're raising their deductibles, they're raising the premiums, they're cutting the benefits. Brilliant. They're also capping the number of paid days off workers can bank. In other words, if you work straight through the whole year and you can save up, some days off, they're capping that at 23 days. I just came from a country where you're required every year to take 14 days of paid vacation or 15 days of paid vacation. And in France, I think it's 4 weeks. So anyhow, so how do we deal with this? I mean, what's going? Michael Moore, again, his movie. Louise and I went to see it yesterday with a good friend of ours, and it's rather mind-boggling. Dead peasants insurance. Now, I first started talking about that on this program at least 3 or 4 years ago, back when the Wall Street Journal was actually doing investigative journalism, and they ran a front-page story about how companies were buying insurance policies on their workers in the hopes that the workers would die because they'd make a higher rate of return. And you have to ask the question, I mean, if I'm your next-door neighbor and you discovered that I had taken out a fire insurance policy on your house, would you be a little nervous? I mean, wouldn't you be saying, why the hell is he paying money for a fire insurance policy on my, is he going to burn my house down? And here we have employers in the United States taking out, and there's millions of these policies, taking out what's called dead peasant insurance. Dead peasant insurance means that when the worker dies, the worker's family doesn't get a damn penny, not a red cent. But the corporation can get millions. And Congressman Gutierrez is introducing legislation to stop this, to make it illegal, with the exception of companies that are insuring their employees that make over $1 million a year, where the company could arguably have an economic loss itself as a result of the death of the employee. But this is, I mean, why would a company do this? Well, let's see. They wouldn't have a very big investment in safety in the workplace. And in fact, if they could cut back on their health benefits so that their employees were less likely to get, annual physical exams and get checked out and catch diseases before they're fatal, the company could make a very, very nice profit. Thank you very much. I'm telling you, there is a cancer stage of capitalism where individual companies, just like individual cells in cancer, start consuming all the resources around them and grow on an unlimited basis and crowd out and kill off everything else. We are reaching the cancer stage of capitalism in the United States. There's just a small handful of people, and they're taking us as the blood.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.